Good evening, everybody. We're having a nice summer evening everywhere. See, yesterday was Sunday. I guess it got up to 88 degrees. Then this morning early, like 4 o'clock in the morning, we had such a, I don't know whether it was a, what do they call it, cell, but it thundered, lightning, and the rain was just going sideways. Typhoon, that's right. And I knew that it was going to wreck my my canopy at the pool, which it did. It just microcell. That's so. I was surprised to hear. As a matter of fact, I was talking with one of my fraternity buddies who had a microcell hit in his yard. He had great big huge trees, and it knocked 17 of them down in his yard. All the ones on the one side of the house blew down to the north, and the one at the south side of the house blew south. So they all blew down away from the house, fortunately. Yeah, but I think we had one of those here not too long ago. Anyways, just wasn't aware of them when I was growing up here in Pittsburgh. All right, so we're still in kind of a very lethargic market trend. Even though the Dow was up 100 points, 90 points today, you could see that it wasn't very decisive. And what's even less decisive, this kind of slow, steady movement in a downward direction, which again is even more amplified by the fact that it started just back in December and just kind of slowly drifting. And the NASDAQ also is pretty much confirming that there is no major direction. Was watching this level right in here because the whole, I forget what theory they call it or what process they call it, but you can see in the downtrend that as long as they can't make, made a new high right there, but if they can't come up and make a new high, they'll turn around. So even though this is heading up, we're in the overbought area, we haven't reached this level. A little bit more volume. How is that? So this is still putting us in the conditions of kind of a sideways market. Now, you have to assume, darn, I keep rolling this, have to assume that we're in an uptrend as long as we're above the T-line. But we have to have our suspicions, too, that we're in the overbought area. And again, I'll reiterate one of the kind of common or observable pieces of evidence that the bears have taken control, that if you're up here in the overbought area and they come back through the open of the previous day, especially close it below the open of the previous day, that's a bearish sign. They shouldn't have that much strength, and that gave us the inclination that they, even though it's not a reversal signal, they're probably at least coming back down to test the T-line. Now, The other side of that coin is it is not a reversal signal. It's just a bad down day in an uptrend. Which makes that the next likely target. Still sound low, Bob? Yes, so they did test the T-line. So that makes the analysis much easier for us, knowing the T-line acts like a natural support and resistance level. So this might just be consolidation. Kind of the same scenario here on the S&P 500, even though it looks a little bit dicey. They haven't closed below the T-line, and in this case, they didn't even close back below the 3T line. So that should be part of everybody's analysis, that if we know the T-line acts like a natural support and resistance level, and the 3T line has somewhat that same characteristic, that if they can't close below the 3T line, that's telling you there's not a lot of bearish strength, and especially if they can't close below the T-line, which is going to be more observable. At least we know we're not in a downtrend or it hasn't pulled back. So the suspicion still remains, or not the suspicion, but the analysis should be that as long as we can't get up above this level right here, we got to kind of factor that unless there's something really dynamic where they can get up to this level, we got to assume that the sideways mode of this market remains in progress. Now, we had news after hours that Walmart was putting out a warning that they weren't going to have as good a earnings because of their inventory still being pretty high, which knocked down a lot of the retail stocks. Let me make sure. That's Macy's. And Amazon after hours, as you can see, closed below the T-line. So that will be kind of a another warning that they couldn't get Amazon up through this level. That another, that we're still in this, maybe the sideways trend. I don't remember very many working well today. Our SLVM continues to move up nicely. Jay, I would still be looking at the T-line being that final criterion. So even if it closed a little bit below the T-line, the assumption now has to be they aren't moving out of this trading range. It's still kind of waffling. Now that assumption is pretty much enhanced by the fact that the summer doldrums are just exactly that. Summer doldrums. There's really no direction. But what I also like to emphasize is you don't rely on the assumptions or the sage advice, like sell in May, go away. You've got the Christmas or Santa Claus rally. You've got things that generally work, but when I say generally, you can assume that might be the case, but you still don't depend on that to be the case. You watch to see what your charts are telling you. All right. The oil stocks started coming back today. So that's why we recommended this one, because of the J-hook pattern. But the rest of them seem to be picking up a little bit of steam. Here's Apache. ExxonMobil, nice little J hook. Whoops. Occidental, up through the resistance level with your kind of your bobble J hook pattern. Yeah, Walmart's going to kind of bring things down. Oh, is that right? All right, thank you, Gary. I forget what the other one was that we recommended. This one worked well. Again, you can, anytime you see this trajectory, you can instantly assume investor sentiment is building up. So you've got much better probabilities that it's going higher, but you also have the a level you can watch and say, all right, we expect this to move into a wave 3, but all of a sudden, if it did a bearish engulfing signal right here, what'd that tell you? Because of the candlestick signals telling you there's a bearish signal at a breakout level, that's a good indication they're not breaking out, close out the trade. So Jim was saying he was in this, but here is why I always kind of put the figure 30% in everybody's head. I know that probably approximately 30% of my trades aren't going to work. So if I had bought this on this day, when it closed back below the candle that told us the bulls were in control, whoops, yes, when it closed back below the candle open, what told you the bulls were in control, that means they're not in control anymore. Close it right out. And the reason I say this is I have sat in so many positions that started out with a buy signal and then negated, hoping that it would turn around and go back up. Instead of saying, all right, let me take this money and go find a chart that looks more like this. That does two things for me. One, it immediately gets me out of a trade that isn't working and moving on to something that is working. And two, it keeps me from lollygagging in a trade that for some reason isn't working, and I sit there for 3, 5, 10, 12 days with money not doing anything. Oh boy. Let's take a look at the biggies. Tesla pulled back. Let's make this. So that was a little bit bigger signal versus had it been a doji, at least we would have a doji sandwich, not a doji sandwich, a double doji setup, but it didn't do that today. Apple, kind of the same scenario. It was trading as a doji earlier, but now these look like they all have the ability to come back and test the T-line, which means there's not a lot of bullish activity just yet. And that's exactly what happened on NVIDIA today. After the evening star signal in the overbought condition, that far away from the T-line, when it started pulling back, where did you think the next target was going to be? Back here at the earnings, at the earnings, I'm reading Apple's earnings, right back here at the support levels. Now, instead of hanging on to it, if you closed it out here or closed it out on the open, oh, did it actually? Now you have the opportunity after a doji to see whether it's going to trade back up as a J hook or whether it's going to continue lower. Netflix, another one that, now this did do a little bit more of a double doji, but we know exactly what we need to see on a double doji situation. It better open positive and trade positive. So Walmart, where is it trading now? It was down big. Let me see if I can find it over here on the, up well below the 50. Now, I got to look to see where it's actually trading at. 118.90. So 119. So it's all the way down here, which is making that a very bearish chart. Now remember, anytime you see something where they slam it, that means there's going to be a lot of injured investor sentiment, and it's going to take a while for it to heal. So you expect more downside on something that's gotten hit big. Let's see. I think we did all the biggies. All right. So with that, now I'll get to those. A lot of the retail stocks are showing or selling off after the close today. Okay, now let's see. Whoops. What am I? Oh, EVTL. Look what started this uptrend. Right there. Kind of your combination little mini kicker type best friend. So this is why I tell people, if you're going to figure out what happens on specific signals, learn that very well, knowing what should happen after that type of move. Because that one was also illustrated today in GOVX. So we know what should happen if there's a lot of bullish strength on this one. It should open positive and trade positive. If it opens down here, or if it opens here and starts trading down, you close it out if you're long. Because what's the worst case scenario? You buy it when it comes back up through this level. So with this type of move, which is obviously a result of, what is it, monkeypox? There was your kicker signal on Cigna, also related to the monkeypox. And you're right here at this level with a kicker signal. Say right here at this level. Pretty much can draw a line up through the tops. If they open this positive, more than likely you've got another breakout of this level. I don't know what this is. Donkeypox, there you go. So SIGA had a kicker signal. MP had a kicker signal, and I guess it's because it was added to one of the indexes, but that's showing you what the investor sentiment is. But there's probably some more upside, so you want to keep on that one. Donkeypox, there you go. All right, so the sector that's acting strong is the oil sector. So here's SM Energy. Again, look at your little trend kicker J-hook pattern. Kind of expect the first target would be coming up here to the 50-day moving average. And here's JB's Matador. Again, a trend kicker signal J-hook pattern. Bohr. Lots of indecision down here. Now, kind of a gap up, also a kicker type signal through the T line. another one that could be bought on positive trading. Can you scan for kicker signals? Would that be a gap up? Mark, there's actually a scan, a formula for the kicker signal. So yes. So I don't have a lot of the scans on my, because I know what to look for based upon just biggest percent moves each day. But if I was doing individual scans, the kicker signal is one of them. Then maybe I do the best friend signal. Now, you won't find a lot of them, meaning there won't be a lot of kicker signals. But some days there are, you might have 6 or 8, but they will be kicker signals in the sense, you can tell what color that is. You might have a wee little doji that's red and then a strong bullish candle. That doesn't make it a non-signal. It's just not a true kicker signal, but it's still probably a good signal. So you can see on CEIX where you've got a J-hook pattern. But what is even more important is if we know what the results of a J-hook pattern is, and we can see right about where the breakout level is, what's that tell you about this resistance area? It's going to go through that. So that becomes a high probability trade setup. And there's others that look just like that. Occidental, same scenarios. Right here at this breakout through the 50. If this starts trading positive, got a factor that's heading back up into this area. So another indicator is when you start seeing a whole sector with strong signals and patterns, then you can pretty much assume they're buying that sector across the board. So you're in a little bit safer space or safer sector to be buying the good patterns in that sector. SD, nice fry pan bottom. And again, this is observe the obvious. Where did this fry pan bottom out? Right smack dab on the 200 with little hammers, dojis, kind of a double bottom. So it gives you that much more confidence that these are that this fry pan bottom's working. Sometimes you'll see a lot of kicker signals, and especially when you see a major market reversal. So when we saw this type of day right here on the NASDAQ, there's probably a lot of stocks that completely turned around and started or formed kicker signals. Same thing right here. When they had that big gap up day off the hammer signal in the Dow, there was probably a higher percentage or a higher number of kicker signals that day. But on a normal day, you might only find 1 or 2 kickers, if any. So here's Cork, Comstock Resources, another fry pan bottom, and where did it bottom out? Morningstar signal, Harami, right off the 200, first target, and then there's like a wee little teeny gap up here. So this is kind of putting the stars in alignment. If you can find the sector that is where everything's turning around, now you can find the strongest stocks or strongest chart patterns in that sector. Just, again, improves the probabilities. So here's another good-looking chart, BBIO. Bullish engulfing off the 34, back up through the T-line, and you're sitting right there. Jay, no, the kicker signal is so strong It doesn't matter where they occur. It just tells you there's been a drastic bullish sentiment. So the kicker signal is one where you're not worried about where it is in the trading area. Piedmont lithium still working ever since our series of dojis, and that was also, you can see the series of dojis kind of triple bottom on SLI, and then they gapped it up. I would be a buyer of this one on positive trading with the expectation you've got a 45-degree in progress. Let's see. TH, observe the obvious. What started this breakout? There's your little best friend morning star type signal, gap up, gap up. Now, would you buy it here? Probably not. Would you buy it here? Probably not. You buy it here? Probably not. Would you buy it here? Yes, because now you can see what's happened. That's that J-hook consolidation. Now get ready for the next move. Another best friend breakout. This is, oops, get rid of that. No. Well, for crying out loud. Here's your best friend gap up. What's that illustrate? Probably a lot more upside. Merck, there's your double doji setup. Consolidation, doji backing and filling, fry pan bottom. Implies more upside, especially if they take it up through this level. That's right. You gotta love that wrestling. I grew up, I don't know if everybody remembers the name, Bruno Sammartino. I think he was the world champion wrestler before it went into being a full-fledged entertainment versus wrestling. He lived about half a mile from us, and for years my mother would be sitting out in the back patio and Bruno would go running by and they'd wave to each other. WB, yes, what you want to see, which one were we looking at? That was, I forget. That's not a double doji. That's just doji. Now I forget which one we were looking at that had the double doji. Forgot already. Was it Merck? All right. Yeah, so you want to see them up, kind of a consolidation day, a doji day, and then this day opens positive. But this day right here is usually backtracking a little bit, showing that there's consolidation, but and the same thing over here. You can see how you had a doji, then a plus doji, then they opened it lower, continuing the downtrend. So you want to see this doji not level with, or you want to see that it's kind of part of that consolidation before they take it up some more. So here's your fry pan bottom. This is why a belt hold signal becomes a more relevant piece of information, in the sense that they've taken out a lot of sellers right here. They had buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers, and then they wiped out a lot of the sellers, which means any buying after that is confirming, or there's less There's less selling in the way. So any buying that comes in will act a little bit stronger. So that kind of confirms your fry pan bottom breakout. That's Boston beer. Oh, was he? I wouldn't doubt it. An AR, fry pan bottom. Now this is where you put 2 plus 2 on your analysis. Look where this doji occurred. Then they opened up positive. What did that tell us? We had a doji sim, which was telling us the 50-day moving average was not acting as resistance, and it was confirming still that our fry pan bottom was continuing to work. Okay, so the patterns and the patterns work just as effectively on the downside. Whoops, this was more of a doji over on the other charts. So there's your bearish flutter kicker signal. So there's Micron. There's your bearish flutter kicker signal. Now add up everything you can see on this chart. The 50-day moving average has been acting as a resistance level. What was before Micron? Oh, that was lithium, or not lithium, Lithia Motors. Okay, and then so if I see something like this, and that's a very strong sell signal, overbought condition, they stopped right smack dab at the 50. Look what happened over here, bearish kicker back through the 50. What do you think's happening to the investor sentiment? It's still in a downtrend. Where do you think the next likely target would be? Probably somewhere equivalent to this being a level. Let's get rid of this. What's a parallel line to that? Somewhere in that range. So again, this is in 3 dead soldiers. So now I forgot what. Oh, so if I see something like this, so we know that the semiconductors are being sold off. I'll quickly take a run through and find out, whoops, they're also selling off applied material. That becomes a viable short. And advanced micro, not as good, but they're selling that off. So now I can, in seconds, make the assumption they're selling off the semiconductors. So what do I want to find in the for shorting? I want to find the ones that are selling off the hardest or with the best probability. So Micron becomes that that candidate. Q2, well, I know. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Same analysis. The 50 is apparently acting as a resistance level. Look at the bearish Harami gap down, your bearish best friend. Consolidated sideways, came back up to the 50 and did a evening star signal. What's that assumption? We're still in a downtrend. look for maybe this level being the next target. All right. Same scenario on SG. I don't even know what sweet green is. But the fact that they started doing bearish engulfing, failure here at the 50 makes this now a likely target to the downside. Now, I don't know what, I forget what Twist is. Twist retail store, BWST. There's your evening star, bearish engulfing. I don't know whether this is a retail. No, it's a bioscience. That one was selling off. Now, we had recommended shorting Beam because of that evening star signal. If you shorted it today, it has to open lower and trade lower. If it does open lower, giving you kind of a bearish doji sandwich, again, that's your Dagwood, an evening star signal followed by the bearish doji sandwich or your evening sandwich, which again, the evening star signal in itself is a reversal. A doji sandwich tells you there's more downside, so that's just kind of a double confirmation. Now, where could it go to? Well, there's one target. There's a second target. But I don't use Fibonacci retracement as my trading guide, but you can throw it on here to say, all right, if this is going to be pulling back, where could you pull back? Well, there's another level, there's another level, there's another level. Not that we think it's going to move to one of those levels. We're just watching to see which one of those levels might be acting as your support level and show a buy signal. The retails, the gap. Gap up, doji, failure at the 34. I think it was trading down here after hours. Another one that probably has the prospect of doing a bearish channel heading down into this area. Boot. Observe the obvious. The 50-day moving average acts like a resistance level. This one is heading lower. Where? Again, probably to the lower end of this trend channel. Dix. I think this was trading lower after hours. Where would you think this was heading back to? There or there? Burlington, a failure right smack dab at the 50 with an evening star signal. Where's your next likely target? Top of the trend, bottom of the trend, down here somewhere. Let's see, Dix was at 90. All right, let's take a gander. All right, so it's down here below the T-line. And Macy's. So again, once you see that they're all selling off, that's a pretty good indication that they're not selling off a particular company or stock in that sector. They're selling off the whole sector. Find the chart that looks the strongest to the downside. Snow. If this opens lower, what do you got going on? A bearish doji sandwich, kind of a Dagwood double top. Where do you think your next target would be on this one? probably coming back down into the channel, which would give you about a 44%, I guess a 40% downside. And Dish, same scenario. A failure right smack dab at the 50. 3 times. They open this lower. At least your first target is here, then your target, and then your third target. But at least you can factor that the probabilities are greatly in your favor that it's heading down. Junk in the box, same scenario. Failure at the 50, look for it to come to the bottom of the channel. ENTG, if I'm not mistaken, this one was trading lower after hours. But same scenario, hanging man, overbought condition. If they start selling this off, look at your bearish channel. IAC, still in a downtrend. Evening star signal, bottom of the channel, your likely target. And ZI, same scenario as, I forget which one. If this opens lower, you got kind of a dagwood. If it breaks this level, it's also heading to the lower end of the channel. So there, let's see, I didn't even check this. Is that right, that the Dow looks like it's going to be trading down? Nope, still looks like the Dow might be trading lower. That's the 60 minute. It could be coming back to test those moving averages. T2, a bearish engulfing signal. There's your evening star signal. There's your bounce off the 50. And then there's your bearish engulfing signal. What did the bearish engulfing signal tell you about this bounce? The sellers took control by doing a bearish engulfing signal, number one. And number two, it closed below the T-line. But the future is right. Don't mean a hill of beans right now. But just kind of giving you a kind of a forewarning to say, well, they're selling off after hours. That might mean that they're selling off. We'll have to see what they do in the morning. Just not anything you take for gospel tonight, but at least giving you the indication that when they were selling off earlier today, not so much in the Dow, but the NASDAQ, and the fact that Walmart is much lower, what's that doing to investor sentiment? That's kind of putting a little blemish on bullish sentiment. So Beyond Meat, right about where it should have been breaking out, what happened? Started selling off. Where's your targets? Sava, what do you got going on here? Wave 1, Wave 2, and where did Wave 2 fail? With a shooting star doji that just hit the 50 and then sold off. Where do you think your next target is? Wave 1, Wave 2, Wave 3, kind of heading for this direction. So when you can see where you might be heading to, now you've got a few extra flexibility options to say, well, I can short the stock, or I can buy puts, or I can buy some put spreads that might make a little bit more sense. TPH, this is what I call observe the obvious. As soon as they hit a level that everybody can see, you get a sell signal. Gives you that much more probability you're going to be in the right direction at the right time. So even though we're sitting in a sideways moving lethargic doji or doldrum summer, there's still specific stocks and sectors that are still going to make you money. They might not be as plentiful as in a trending market one way or the other, but the number that we went through tonight, I'm sure that you could find 3 excellent long positions and 3 excellent short positions, depending on how the market opens tomorrow. With food inflation, a hill of beans is just the heck of, that's right, worth a heck of a lot more. And much more entertaining if you remember that famous scene in Blazing Saddles. Okay, I think that's about all I got for tonight. You do have kicker signals, and you do have strong bearish signals. There should be enough supply of good trades tomorrow to make the market a little bit more interesting, and the trading a little bit more interesting. All right, are there any general questions? What's the scene in Blazing Saddles? Oh, Jay, if I have to tell you, don't you remember where they were all sitting around the campfire eating beans? And the sound effects, they wanted Mel Brooks to take that scene out. And if they were trying to do that movie today, they couldn't have half the stuff in there that they did back then. Yeah, you wouldn't call it a T-line crunch that failed. Yeah, you would have stayed long if you were long, stay long, but where would you be watching to see what happens, especially up here in the overbought area? Obviously, you'd want to see what was happening at a level everybody else was watching, which was the 50-day moving average. So it's not the fact that you had a T-line crunch that failed. You had a price that failed. Had they pushed it through with the T-line, that now you would consider as a T-line crunch. All right. Any other general questions on candlesticks? One of the major benefits that is provided with candlestick analysis is if we know what should be happening based upon signals and patterns versus what most people want to do. They want to buy when the market's heading up, and maybe if they're aggressive short when the market's heading down. We don't have to have that limitation. If the market's moving sideways, there's still going to be plenty of good trades both on the long side and the short side. All right, I guess if no more questions, Jim, go ahead and do the double line. Whoops, now I got to get, and in 2.1 seconds, do the next double line. Futures drop due to Walmart earnings. Yes. Yes, that's what's likely happening. Not that, let's put it this way. If everybody sees that Walmart is kind of forecasting that their earnings aren't going to be as good in the future because of supply problems or because of inventory that didn't get sold, now they think, well, if Walmart is having those problems, probably other retail stocks are going to have those problems. And if they're having those problems because they're not getting as much sales as they normally do, maybe that's slowing down the economy, blah, blah, blah. So there's all sorts of things that is associated with a big stock that everybody's watching, like Walmart, or everybody knows of, yeah, kind of changing the investor sentiment. PayPal, nothing of any consequence. If you're long, you stay long, but you still use the T line as your stop. And Cano, so a little bit toppy. It didn't do quite a sell signal by not closing more than halfway down this candle or below the low of yesterday. However, I would be at the point where the market opened lower and this opened lower tomorrow, I'd probably close it out. It needs to open positive and trade positive. Oh, KOD. KOD, would this be a bearish harami? No. No, that's your doji moving in this direction. That's your bearish harami right there. This is just selling. Microsoft. That's still a nothing chart. There's absolutely no direction to Microsoft. I would not be long or short this one. NSC, stay long. You're in the overbought area, so as long as it keeps moving that direction, put your safety stop at today's open. If it opens higher and trades higher tomorrow, move your safety stop up to that open. We did SIGA. SIGA is a kicker type signal right here at the breakout level. You could be buying this one on strength. And ZY, now there's your little, whoops, that's kind of a gimpy chart. That's a toughie. Now you do have the gap up. Now watch to see if this is a message. I would stay long, but if I was long, maybe I'd put a stop just below today's low. MMI. Another one that's getting a little bit dicey in the overbought area, doing a hanging man harami right here at the 50. If this opens lower tomorrow, close it out. Labu was not doing too much of anything today. Right now, you could watch that if it opened lower tomorrow, you got kind of a, not quite a Dagwood, but that doji sandwich would tell you they're probably bringing it back to the to the 50. What are the time you like to trade? Raymond, still that I'll buy usually in the first 45 minutes, and then if I'm closing something out, it's usually in the last 20 minutes of the day. SNDX, we recommended this because of the J-hook type pattern. Still would be a buyer on positive trading, telling you wave 3 is now in progress. Best Buy, that's doing what you would suspect it to be doing. The common price move, which is they come up through the 50, and then they pull back to see if that resistance level is going to act as support. No, I wouldn't short this, Ralph. I'd probably be more inclined to see if it's going to support here at the T-line or the 50 and do a J-hook pattern. CF, you could go long, but I'd probably wait for it to get through the 50-day moving average. MSOS. MSOS. Oh, the cannabis. If you're long, stay long, but use the doji rule. It's going to move in the direction how they open this tomorrow. So if it opens positive, you can still be buying that fry pan bottom. AMGN, not anything wildly exciting, probably until they get up through this level, which would kind of confirm support at the 50 and giving you a little bit of a J-hook pattern. Kind of a bullish flutter kicker. No, that's not what I want to say. A bullish doji sandwich with a little trend kicker. There's a gap to fill up at this level. I'd stay long. Uncomfortable cradle. Lots of doji, but not very smooth. Yeah, so it's not really a cradle, but it is a best friend gap up. It's still a bullish chart because of your best friend. Now just watch to see if they can get through the 50. Etsy I looked at. It didn't seem to be doing very much today, but it is a double doji setup. Now because it's a retail stock, got to see how it opens. If it opens lower, it's going to be kind of hit in this channel with the rest of retailers. If it opens positive and trades positive, your double doji is working. AMAT we did. You might get ready to short this on weakness tomorrow. PLNHF. PLNHF. That one's not coming up. HIMS. So another one is going to be affected by the T-line. The doji right on the T-line, it's going to move in the direction of how they open this tomorrow. If they open it lower, your bearish doji sandwich is probably taking you down to the 200. If they open it positive, your uptrend remains in progress. Corn popped up today a little bit. That's September corn. Soybeans, same thing. Popped up a little bit. Whoops. Wheat didn't do too much. Still in a slow down trend. XBI. Another one that if it opens lower, your bearish doji sandwich is telling you this uptrend's over. They're pulling it back to somewhere. Cisco. Still in a sideways mode. If you're long, it has to open positive and trade positive. If it opens lower, I'd close it out because now you're more sideways. Here's the bean scene, okay, Jay. Same scenario on this one. You're in a downtrend. If they open this lower tomorrow after the dark cloud, they're at least probably coming back with a doji sandwich to test your T-line in the 50, and then you have to wait to see what it does at that level. If it doesn't hold, now you're back into this downward channel. Yes, they said their there was it. Gross revenue is going to be down to 7.5%. No, Kate, unless now the Pelosi indicator is one that if Mr. Pelosi, Nancy's husband, buys something, you want to buy it because he's gotten inside information. Okay, so there's a couple good-looking charts out here. Especially on the short side. ZI. If this does a bearish J-hook, it could be, or a bearish doji sandwich, it could be down pretty strong. SG was another one. Oh, and Micron especially, with that bearish flutter kicker signal, could be selling off pretty hard. ISRG, not a great chart. If you're long, you could stay long, but it would have to get up through this level pretty quick. Saki, I would assume that if, well, mostly over here in the NASDAQ, which had greater implication, that they were coming back down to test the T-line. Now we have to see how they open it. Now, obviously, the Dow futures are down a little bit, 160 points. I don't know how to get the NASDAQ futures. Oh, Best Buy. Yeah, they're all going to get hit. So this is where you kind of utilize your scanning for specific sectors going to be heading down. Obviously, that's the retail sector. Well, you got other sectors like the energy stocks that have strong bullish patterns. Google, that's really a nothing chart. It becomes a something chart if it can break out through or break down through, this level. If they open this lower and break this support level, do that. That's going to be a pretty good indication that you've got wave 1, wave 2, definitely going into wave 3. Okay, is that NQ? Oh, that was today. What are the after hours ones? I've never played with them. Yeah, let's see. When is, oh, tomorrow? Oh, no, tomorrow's Tuesday. I guess the FOMC meeting is Wednesday. Well, I don't think there's going to be anything that is a surprise. Everybody is anticipating a the retail. Okay, yeah. I think everybody's anticipating that there's going to be a 3/4 point raise. If they raised it a point, I don't think that would disappoint the market, because that would show that they're going to be aggressive trying to slow down inflation. But I'm just kind of throwing out scenarios here. The real answer is we have no idea what the reaction is going to be. Yeah, so yeah, it doesn't really matter whether they want to term it as a recession or not. Doesn't matter what the terminology is. What we're interested in is which way are the markets moving based upon what everybody has already anticipated, and that's what the market's already telling us. SJT now has an 8.9% dividend. Monthly ex-dividend is an 8.9 dividend, but if it's a monthly dividend, that means it's 1/12 of 8.9%. So it probably doesn't have that big an effect of on the price. Crude oil has flattened out. What is gold? Gold is still kind of drifting, not really going anywhere. So, all right. If they start trading this market lower, even though you could draw a line through these levels, it would still be implying that there isn't any great bullish strength in this market, that this was merely a bounce, merely a bounce, merely a bounce. So another indicator, as we know, is the bond index, which looks like it's in that same category of being in a downtrend. And when you take a look at some of the biggies, like Amazon, Netflix, Tesla, all the ones that you would consider the big name traders, if they're selling off, that means the overall market sentiment is getting weaker. Okay, whoops, I've kept this over time. Jay, that's what I would always tell people, that I was so poor when we were growing up. The only time we could have a bubble bath on Saturday night is when we had beans for dinner on Friday night. All right, everybody, we will see you bright and early in the morning tomorrow. We'll see you then.